wasn't nominated, I wasn't nominated. I'd be disappointed, but it wouldn't, ruin my life. It would just be something that was, I would always joke, well, someday I'll be an old man, they'll wheel me out on the stage, give me an honorary Oscar, and turn me around and reel me off again. And I'll be very happy to accept one whenever they give me one. For whatever reason, if it happens, it'll be glorious. And, but the important thing for me right now is just, exposing the world to the Oscar Schindler story.
You must have contacts in the Jewish business community working here.
What community? Jews can no longer own businesses. That's why this one's in receivership.
Besides being a Nazi and black marketeer, Oskar Schindler was also a Catholic and saviour to well over 1,000 Polish Jews. His is a story of heroism and conscience. A story Steven Spielberg, Jewish himself, was compelled to share, for more reasons than one. You have your own Holocaust background, don't you?
Sure.
You lost a number of relatives?
None that I knew, but I lost between 8 and 10 relatives, cousins, second cousins, all Eastern Europeans. It was where I'm originally from, where my grandparents are from.
And growing up, you remember your family talking about the Holocaust?
Just incessantly. It was a very, very provocative subject, provocative for a 6-year-old kid to be able to hear the word murder and sons of bitches and those bastards and those murdering Nazi sons of bitches. And when you're a kid and you hear those words along with murder, you prick up your ears. And that's where I first learned how to count with a Holocaust survivor. I was 3 years old, and he showed me his tattoos.
On his tattoo?
On his forearm. And I didn't know how to count then. He showed me what a 5 and a 4 was, and he showed me all the numbers, and then he said, and here's a piece of magic. He said, see, this is a 9, but when I go like this, it's a 6, and now it's a 9.
As Hitler's final solution for the Jews engulfed Poland, Oskar Schindler, friend and provider to the Nazis, managed to protect hundreds of Jewish families by putting them to work in his Krakow factory. Millions died in the gas chambers, but for Schindler's Jews, the pots and pans factory became a haven. While you were shooting in Poland, is it true that you were so depressed that you called Robin Williams?
A couple times.
Did you?
Yeah.
What did you say to him?
I just said, Robin, I said, I'm having a very tough time. He said, hey, I can hear it in your voice. And I didn't really say make me laugh. I just began talking to him, and then he just began going into the Robin Williams famous riffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my first real laughs on the telephone with Robin, and nothing in between.
Only someone with the clout of Steven Spielberg could insist that the movie be shot entirely in black and white. Then Spielberg didn't want any big-name stars. And on top of all of that, the movie is over 3 hours long. So it's no wonder that most senior executives at Universal Studios were not keen on handing over $30 million to Spielberg to make the movie.
Yeah, I mean, what I said to them was, obviously, I can make any movie I want to make today. And they're supposed to finance any of my films, even if it's a telephone book. And I used that, and I said, and I select Schindler's List as my telephone book. And they said, okay, go to it.
This was Poldek Pfefferberg in the film, another Jew indebted to Oskar Schindler.
I respectfully report I've been given orders to clear the bundles from the road, so there will be no obstructions to the thoroughfare.
And this is Poldek Pfefferberg in Los Angeles today. For years, as a Beverly Hills leather importer, he told his customers about the legend of Schindler. But no one really listened.
They were never so much interested.
Until you met
till
Australian
one day
author
came a wonderful little fellow, I said little, I don't know, to me he was a strange-looking gentleman with a small little bird with a special head on his head.
That strange little man was Australian author Thomas Keneally. He was the only one who took the time to listen to Pfefferberg's story when he walked into his shop in 1980.
Thomas Keneally, this wonderfully literate and intellectual and humane, warm-hearted Australian writer, he was just trying to buy a simple briefcase, and he wound up writing Schindler's List at the behest of Poldek Pfefferberg.
I don't think I'd have the guts to do it now, Mike, but then I was at the end of my youth and I was still a bit of a literary Hell's Angel, and I thought, oh, give it a whirl.
As opposed to individual payoffs to our SS context, the list is in the law drawer.
Many in Hollywood believe Steven Spielberg has finally thrown away his gee-whiz special effects to make a serious masterpiece. Ask Spielberg, and he'll tell you he's matured.
The decks were stacked against this subject. This was not a safe subject. This was a very dangerous subject, both commercially and had I used... Morally, and I could have really screwed this thing up. And I swear, if I had made this picture 8, 9, 10 years ago when I had the book, I would have really screwed it up. I just want to see take sidelines. Get the ladder in here.
And you designed this whole complex yourself?
Yeah.
It's sort of...
9 years ago, 8 years ago.
And it's sort of American Indian, right?
Yeah, it's like Santa Fe. It's southwestern,
Right.
New Mexico style.
Steven Spielberg gives us a rare insight into his world, a personal tour of his multi-million-dollar production complex built for him by Universal Studios in Los Angeles. Is that right, the earthquake?
Yeah.
Wow, any other damage around
No. Oh, we had a lot of structural damage. No, I mean, no structural damage, but a lot of breakage. Pots and plants and TV sets and computers.
Ladies and gentlemen, Steven Spielberg.
Over the past 2 decades, Steven Spielberg has sent his own tremors through the international film industry. Of the top 8 grossing movies of all time, Spielberg is responsible for half of them.
We're being hunted. Oh, God. From the bushes straight ahead.
His dinosaur blockbuster, Jurassic Park, is the biggest money spinner in the history of cinema. $870 million and still counting. Did you have any idea that, I mean, what you'd tapped into, the dinosaur?
No, never. To see them looking up from the tree and then the head comes down from the
But
side.
surprisingly, Spielberg thought Jurassic Park might be a flop because it was too scary for children and too childish for adults.
So I kind of, in my imagination, thought I could have fallen between the cracks. And so it was a real surprise to me when it became as big as it became.
For everybody, really?
Yeah, I was amazed.
And what about E.T.?
Well, that's just, I mean, E.T. is me. I mean, that's just everything about my life that carefully disguised in a science fantasy package.
Released in 1982, E.T. is second in the earning stakes, over $700 million. You wanted to be a filmmaker from a very early age, didn't you?
Sure, yes.
How old were you?
Well, I guess 12 when I started making movies when I was a Boy Scout. I made a movie for a merit badge, for a photography merit badge.
Did you?
A little 3-minute drama in 8mm. And I think I got bitten by the bug then and never let go.
A year later, he was shooting on location with props and all. Only problem was, at 13, he needed his mum to get him there.
But we didn't know he was Steven Spielberg. I mean, this is my little blonde kid with the ears and little bangs.
I saw my mom yesterday, you know, I used to put an army helmet on my mom because we had this army Jeep from the Korean War. My mom would wear this army helmet and because she was the only one old enough to drive the darn thing, and I'd put all of my 12, 13-year-old friends in her car. We make these little World War II army movies.
You didn't, did you?
Steven Spielberg's little adventures are slightly bigger productions these days. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is number 5 in the top 10 of all time.
We found it.
That has always represented to me the person I've always wanted to be, and I never will. You know, it's one of those, you know, hero worship. I've always wanted to tell a story about a hero that I can never be. And because we're able to be filmmakers, we can tell any damn story we want.
Yeah, and sort of be Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And then there's Jaws, made 20 years ago. But today, Spielberg admits the only reason the film succeeded was because the mechanical shark was broken down for most of the time.
It saved the movie, basically. Because had it been working, the movie would have been not as suspenseful because I would have had more of the shark to show. And now, because the shark didn't work, I didn't have the shark to show at all. You know, Hitchcock, I think, was on my right shoulder when I was making that picture.
Is that right?
He deserves a lot of the credit.
Oh, Lord, Will you lower them down gently?
You heard him, lower them gently. Will you lower them down?
To consistently make smash hit movies over 20 years is special enough. But Steven Spielberg just keeps getting better and better. He's an industry himself.
Yeah, like that. Great, great.
Yet very little of the Hollywood chutzpah has ever impressed this man.
You just turn and walk away.
After all the things that you've done, is there anything in particular that you'd like to be remembered for?
I would love my kids to really remember me as, you know, as their father, more than their director, Dad. And, you know, I try very hard to keep those two identities separate in my life, that when I'm with my kids, I'm with them. And when I'm on a set, I'm on a set. And often they're on the set with me, too, so they see both sides of what I do.